Truth, lies,
Yeah.
shenanigans.
So, this week the National uh, Major Baseball League um, had a ruling in which they have agreed to pay a very large sum of money to the minor league um, about um, to settle a federal class action lawsuit. It stems on the fact that the minor league players were not being compensated for having to attend summer training and things like that. Like apparently they only get compensated for um, playing the games and not all of the things that go along with playing the games. And the interesting thing though is about like this class action lawsuit, it settles and says that now teams can compensate these players. Doesn't mean that they have to. So there's still leagues that may not compensate these players, but it's like you're asking them to do this extra work, go into mandatory training, mandatory meetings, and yet you're not being compensated, which to me is kind of wild. I didn't know that that would even be exist. Like even in my job, like if we have a mandatory team meeting, everybody clocks in and gets paid to be there. So like how like in 2022, you're still forcing people to do things and not paying them. That just seems wild to me. Like, what are your thoughts?
I'm curious. So were they um are they paid annually or are they paid per game?
Now that part I'm not particularly. I know you get a salary, and I think it's based per game. Um,
Or maybe it's
but
for a certain number of months or maybe something like that.
yeah, but it's. I mean, it's more. It's mostly like around like you actually playing the actual game. But the spring training that they have to do and those things, they're not being compensated for, but it's mandatory that they have to be there. And I mean, we're talking minor league, so they're not getting these multi-million-dollar contracts like the major league players are getting. Most of them probably still have their regular full-time jobs and kind of doing this on the side, with the hopes of maybe moving up to the majors.
Mhm.
And it's like, it's one thing, I mean, for the major league players, they get compensated millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, and all they have to do is play this game. The
Right.
minor league players aren't the same way. I guess it's akin to sort of the NCAA and how, those kids don't get paid, but they have to do all this work.
I
And
don't
it's,
know.
and like I said, all the lawsuit does is that it clears the leagues, the organizations that now they can pay them, but they still don't have to.
Wow. I don't know that I don't know. I feel like minor leagues is an opportunity, right? And you can choose to take the opportunity, you can choose not to. Now, do they if there's no requirement to do well, I guess there's requirements to do spring training. But I remember when I was in management, um, I get paid 45 hours a week. I'd work sometimes 100 hours a week, right? I get paid 45 hours. That's all I'd get paid. No matter what, no matter if I worked, 50, 60, 70 hours, still 45 hours a week. I was getting paid. I was not getting paid for those extra hours of work that I was putting in. And that's legal as far as labor law. is Now, these are contractual things with minor leaguers, so it's not like they fit under the same labor laws and same labor law requirements. So I don't know. I don't know that if you look at the minor leagues as an opportunity to get to the major leagues to make the big money, I say I'm not really I'm not against it. I'm not against them just paying them for the games they played. I'm not against them. I may be against. I may not like the fact that they have to do certain things that they're not being paid for, or being required to. But in many cases, if you don't do those things, you just don't have that opportunity. So I don't know. It's a catch-22
Hmm.
that I'm on the fence about. So I'll be.
Just because something is lawful, contractual, doesn't make it right. Um, and the MLB is profitable. When I was looking into this, I just started looking at a couple of the franchises, and I mean, on average, they're profiting 100 million to 600 million. So, I mean, that's not a bad profit margin. So, Major League Baseball franchises are profitable. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them tell you otherwise. So, why not trickle some of that money down so that you can start really supporting your up and comers? So, if you have the money to invest in minor league players, and if you're showing profits of 100 million, Neil, trickle that down. I mean, just a little bit of it is peanuts. They need the minor leagues for relief players. They need the minor leagues to develop up and coming talent. So if you remove
Mm.
financial barriers and hurdles, you can nurture the talent and the players, and you can foster player loyalty. When you do these things, great things can happen. It just creates a good formula for everyone all around. And and I can appreciate what you're saying, Neo. I mean, keep them lean, keep them hungry. Nobody gets free ride. But if they're not being compensated in a reasonable fashion to, if you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into it, and this is your dream, your opportunity, I think that the MLB has the money to at least help these players along the way because they're the ones that benefit from that final product anyway. Just makes no sense. It's an investment.
I will say real quick, I will say that I just looked up the minor league baseball player salary, how much they get paid. This is on sportingnews.com. It says salaries of minor league baseball players in the U.S. range from, I'm sorry, this is comparably.com, comparable salaries. A minor league baseball players in the U.S. range from 19,910 to 187,200 with a median salary of 44,000 a year. Hmm. I don't know that,
I
I
think
mean,
that it kind of goes
part-time salary
back
is
a
not
little
that
bit
bad.
to like the beast of burden that we talked about. Like the amount of conditioning and work that goes into being a top-notch player in any sport on any level is huge. And the damage that happens to these athletes' bodies that happens long after they've finished the sport.
Yeah.
Baseball players, rotator cuffs,
Injuries.
ACL injuries.
Mhm.
These things
Hmm.
can end your career before it even starts. And so, really, when we talk about compensation, like, can you pay somebody enough? And this is how I feel across the board with all of the sports and dealing with like having people close to me that have played professional sports. Um, the toll that it takes on your body, is there truly any money compensation for that? Because after you finish playing, you're the one still in pain from the arthritis or the old injuries and things like that. And
Yep.
so it's like, why can't you get, I guess, get as much compensation as possible because you are beating your body up to do this.
But sports is is you get paid for performance. So like, how well a team is doing defines how well they'll be able to how much money they'll make because if you think about it, most of the revenue is probably coming from minor league ticket sales and whatever concession sales and all of that stuff. So, if your team's not doing well, you may end up being an undercompensated minor league player. So, I mean, isn't it to some degree you just got to play better? I mean,
And
That
that's
to
where
in
get
you need
paid
to have
more.
profit sharing. You need to have profit sharing rules across the board to ensure that it is an equal playing field across the
Get those
entire
ticket
league.
sales. That
I
was the
don't.
same thing with WNBA. I mean, I understand that they want to be paid the same as NBA, but they also don't have the same viewership and the same. I mean, they
but
got it.
WNBA, most WNBA games are actually a better caliber than the NBA games. Have you seen them women? They are beast.
Some of them are, yes, some of them are, but on average,
So I think that you have like like, yes, if you do well, you get paid well. But we're still talking about like it doesn't even matter. Even if you are on a poorly doing team, you still have to put in the work. There's still conditioning that happens. There's still injuries
Mhm.
that happen.
I mean, they're not
Regardless,
getting paid pennies though. I don't know.
But
nineteen
Neil, if
thousand
you're
dollars a
making
year.
Well,
20K a year,
19,000, that's like the worst player,
okay.
but
But if you're making 20K a
187,000 is
year
pretty good.
and you're trying, But if you're making 20K a year and you're trying, you're starting, you're breaking in, and now you're expected to work a full time job, you're expected to do
Play
all of the
part-time.
conditioning. And so I understand that leading up to that point, because they start grooming players at a certain point, but
Yeah.
you know, during your young adult life, you're presumably living with mom and dad. So that's not really a big issue. But when you're out on your own, you need some kind of living wage. And if the player develops into something, this is a commodity, it's a resource for the team. So if the player develops into something good, they will reap the rewards. So why not throw $5 million towards player salaries in your minor leagues that can be distributed evenly and equally so that there's some kind of equity? Make sure everyone has a living wage. And again, it's that you develop that player loyalty, you develop a better sense of competition and fairness, hopefully less roids. Hopefully
All right.
less roids.
Comments online. Jacqueline Robinson says trainees and sometimes interns are compensated in other fields such as law and politics. Yes, they work for opportunities, but they're also paid for the time they're working. But they're also
Yeah.
paid inexpensively. I have 2 interns and they're getting paid, I don't wanna say how much they're getting paid, but it's under 10 grand. So, I mean, it's like, you know, they get paid cheaply because they're learning, they're trying to figure it out. So you pay and you get better. You pay for where you are, and then you get to the major leaguers, and that's why you can't compare because there's a talent difference.
I mean, yeah, I mean, we're not telling that they need $1 million contracts, but
No.
you need something. You need some. I mean,
Maybe.
no, you need something. Like,
Maybe they're a
that's the
little
thing.
underpaid.
Yeah,
Maybe
very.
they're a little he said very. All right.
If I've had three rotator cuff surgeries and I'm still in the minors pitching for this team and they call me up when they need me, then shouldn't I be compensated to at least have a living wage because they're going to come to me when they need me. So
I
if I need to
say I
perform
say
at
you don't
that
like the
level when they
pay, don't
need me,
sign the contract. That's what I say. All right. Is this truth, lies, shenanigans? I'm saying there's a little bit of
Mhm.
truth in this. It's true. Some shenanigans too.
it's
I'm
some
going with
Shenani-
truth.
truth, but
Shenani truth.
I think
Shenani truth.
yeah,
Shenana truth.
shenana truth. I
Shenana truth.
like that.
Shenana truth.